garage, and now we're live. I actually brought a second beer just in case. I don't know why you guys in particular. I thought I needed a backup.
Well, how long is it? Was it a 5-minute show or what?
It's been a long time since I had a 2-beer garage happy hour. Usually it's a 1. I actually had a backup beer for Pat Maroon when Patrick came on, and I never got to the second beer. We did too much talking, but I don't know, for whatever reason. Cam Janssen, Andy Strickland, what's going on? Look at these guys.
What's up?
I'm so happy to have you.
Hey, Cam, don't talk while I'm talking, okay? Like, don't talk over me the whole time. Okay, we just got to know when to talk. Like, I'm here to hang out with.
Wait, Kevin Slayton?
Pot him down, dude. Pot him down.
Pot him down.
Kidding.
What's going on?
What up, Tommy?
You can already see the chemistry. So,
hey,
you two have put together a podcast that's very popular, Cam and Strick.
All right, can I just tell you real quick? I gotta have is it a misnomer? What's the word, Cam? Disclaimer. What's the word? Okay.
Disclaimer.
I had my second COVID shot today.
Here we go.
And I mean, the fact that I'm just fighting through it. I mean, this is like
he's tough.
Hey, you know.
I hear you, man. What time did you have the shot? Let's break this down.
Here we go.
First off, can I give a shout out to the her name was Ann. I mean, Ann and I are very tight. Let's be honest.
She doesn't remember you, Andy.
No, she does. Yeah, she does.
It was like a 60-second visit, and you know.
Doesn't remember you at all.
Oh, I kept asking her questions. Her daughter goes to Wisconsin. She met her future husband in Norway. It was an amazing conversation, actually. And she gave me the shot. And let me just say this. People are going to get COVID shots everywhere. They go to the gas station. They go to 7-Eleven. They go anywhere. Sam's Club. I'm like, okay, I got to be in a hospital. I got to be at a doctor's office. I got to make sure they know what they're doing. So, who is that?
Okay, speed this story up, will you? Good Lord.
Hey, put that thing away. Put that thing away. So I got my shot today, and I don't know how I'm supposed to be feeling, but I'm tired. Like, it's an excuse to be tired. So I don't know if I'm trying to be tired or if I really feel tired, but hopefully I'm okay here.
No one cares.
Since 8:30 this morning.
Okay, so that's legit. You probably are feeling a little fatigued, but so you had
Yeah.
Pfizer. So I had my second Pfizer shot about a month ago. I did not feel really any symptoms whatsoever, and I don't know. It's different for everybody, but Moderna is the one that people have been kind of reacting to. Like, your body thinks it's the virus, and putting up a little defense. But everything runs its course in about 24 hours.
Y'all be all right. It's all good. You'll be fine. My parents has got it and everything, Andy. They're not coming on a podcast and complaining about their arm being sore.
Cam, I'm considering having a third one. I mean, this next week going to get a third one.
Get 6 of them, will you?
And a fourth one, just to let everyone know how to. Oh, what are you putting in there? You putting a chew in there?
Gum.
I mean, you got to have a chew.
That's
Is there children watching this? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what's up, Tommy? Aki, how are you, man?
We're
Everything's
reunited
good
here. Although the three of us have never done a show together, but I've done stuff with each of you guys. Cam and I did a Blues Game Day podcast. Of course, it was a magical one because it was the year the Blues won the Stanley Cup. Strick and I go way back. So, I remember when you were trying to come in to KMOX as an intern and then as a part-time producer, and it was my buddy from grade school, Kevin Lehrer, who said, this guy, Strickland, just give him a shot. And, we talked about it. We had you in there. And Cam, you could tell he nodded and, did his thing.
He's a go-getter. I'll give him that.
Hockey.
He's a go-getter. I chirp him for many things, okay? Because let me talk about him, because if he talks about himself, we're going to be here forever. But Andy, he is, man. He kind of came from nothing and did his thing. I mean, he acts like a fancy lad now, but he wasn't his whole life. And he went through it, and he had to go toe-to-toe with some heavy hitters in a locker room and sit next to guys that maybe he wrote a legit story about, an honest story, and then he'd walk in there and sit down and look into his eyes. And I don't know. I give him respect for that. I mean, obviously, we're business partners now and we're working together, so there's something I like about him.
Yeah, I know it. And, he did. He got after it. And I remember, so I was covering the team starting in 97, 98, Pronger, McInnes, and all these guys. And my eyes are big, too. And I covered the team for a few years, and Andy comes in around that time. And, they had me covering Rams and Cardinals and some other stuff also. and we really needed someone at Blues every day. And I said, Strick, just go, and like I'll if anyone asks questions, I'll answer. Just go. And he went like on his own, man. I mean, went all the time, every day, and really made a name for himself in hockey. And look at him. I mean, the guy.
Can I say something? When I first came to the Blues, Mike Caruso took me aside and goes, "Watch out for him. Be careful about that." And then the guys on the team would be like, "Oh, there's Scoop." So he had a reputation. But on the other hand, Andy, I'm going to speak for you, is that he still he has all the connection with all these guys, and he has a lot of relationships with these guys, so they trust him with sources and things like that. I'm not a go-getter like that. I want to entertain. He goes and gets stories, things like that, breaks stories, and I give him credit, man. I do chirp you a lot, Andy, but you've worked your butt off to where you're at right now, sitting there having a cocktail in your nice house in the wealthy part of Ladue.
Hey, you know what? I live in the poor part of Ladue. I tell people that all the time. Aki's actually in the wealthy part of Ladue. Yeah, so, first off, let's make it clear. I'm Cam's boss. I mean, just so people know. Let's just throw that out there. I am his boss. I tell him what to do. He does what I tell him to do. So that's why this whole thing works, because he understands the hierarchy, right? Is that the way it works? Okay. No, but I appreciate what you guys said. Listen, I always have loved hockey, and it's funny Mike Caruso says that because he and I are very good friends now. He's like one of my favorite people in town, man.
We love him.
He's been unbelievable to me, and such a great individual, and the relationship with the entire organization is just amazing, man. Sometimes I think about it like Cam. Like, we all grew up playing for the, dreaming of playing for the Blues. Some people would dream to play for the Cardinals or the Rams or whatever it was. And, everybody wanted to be a Blues player. So I can only imagine what that's like to actually do that. I mean, that's got to be just a complete out-of-body experience to grow up in St. Louis, watching the Blues, and then put the uniform on and play in a Blues game. Like, you got to be kidding me. But the second closest thing, at least in my opinion, is to work on the broadcast and be around the team on the inside and get to know all these people and establish relationships with people that you used to watch or that you used to, you felt like you had a connection with that you never truly met in person, but you got to know them just by watching them on television and following their career. So it's been incredible, man. I love every single day. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome. Well, that's a lesson to be learned for anybody, is that you got to love it. I mean, if you don't love what you're doing, you find something else, because I really think if you want to go far, you got to find a way to love it each and every day, because it's a grind, man. There's no doubt about it. And whatever you do to be successful. And Cam, like to Strick's point, I remember the day. I remember the day that the Blues announced that they had made a trade, Bryce Salvador for Cam Janssen, and they were bringing him home. That had to have been an amazing day and like kind of dreamlike for you as a kid who grew up in Eureka wanting to play for the Blues.
I was depressed, to be honest with you, right before that moment, because I hurt my shoulder in a fight against Jarji Peros, who's he's having a hard day. He's having a hard day today. We love Jarji. But he ripped my shoulder out, so I was out for like 6 months. They got Asham there. All I'm doing is getting bag skated by Vladimir Bure. Andy, remember Vladdy Bure, Pavel's dad, who's like an Olympic guy? He was so awesome to me. We'd get bag seshed it was the most miserable thing in the world. So I'm skating, not playing. I'm ready to go. Lou has no room for me. So he does me a favor, but he walks down to the ice when I'm getting back seshed, and he looks in my face, and he goes, "Your face looks fat." And I go, "Ah." I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" Like, what? And he goes, "I need to talk to you upstairs." I don't know why he put me in my place for some reason. Maybe I weighed in a little bit too much that day, because we weighed in every single day, although I wasn't playing anyway. So I remember going up to that, and he started complimenting me big time. And I was kind of like, what the hell? And he goes, "We traded you to St. Louis," and he said something to the effect of, "You're going home." And I got really excited to a point where it might have been a little bit too excited, kind of like, "Oh God, yeah." And I'm like, "Oh geez, oh, thank you for everything." Like, you just get, because I haven't played in like 6 months. So getting on the plane, like, this messages are going crazy. You get home, and I think I did have a bunch of people over that night. Had to meet the guys. I remember bringing Travis down, Andy, one of my good buddies, down when I first had to meet the Blues. We park underneath. We walk into the locker room right before they walk out, and they're like, "Is it your brother?" I'm like, No, it's my buddy. I think it was Caruso, and I just walk him in and saying hey to Brewer and everybody walking by. It was awesome, dude. So it changed my life. If I want to play for St. Louis, you wouldn't be able to monetize life after hockey. It's a blessing that I got to be able to do everything they asked me to do. Come grow with us. Moment where they had us do all kinds of different stuff throughout the city, and I never said no. And it worked out because now you know a ton of people, and you get jobs, and you find your groove, and it's working out.
And let me just piggyback on that story real quick, because I had a deal with Bryce Salvador. Everyone knew that he was going to get traded, right? I mean, his contract was up. Yep. And I think it was between he and Jackman. I think both of their contracts were up, and they were going to keep one and not the other. They couldn't afford both. And so, Sal knew there was a good chance. I think they were negotiating, talking a little bit. But he called me at about maybe 7 o'clock. I was in Philadelphia, actually, doing a trade deadline show in Philadelphia. And he called me and said, hey, he sent me a text, actually. And he said, hey, I'm going to New Jersey. I said, who's coming the other way? He said, Cam Janssen. and I called Cam. And Cam doesn't remember this, but he doesn't remember, anything. He doesn't remember yesterday, the
I
day
remember
before,
things that come and go.
Yeah, okay. So I called him. And I'm like, hey, you're coming to St. Louis, whatever. I didn't really know him very well at all. And he was in a limo. He's like, I'm in the limo, which I don't know what his definition of a limo was. It was probably like a
town car.
A yellow taxi. And he's like, I'm in the limo. I'm on the way, man. I'm so pumped up. I can't wait to go. Like, he was jacked up. And Bryce Salvador went on to be the captain of the Devils and having a great run and almost won the Conn Smythe that they would have won the Stanley Cup back in 2012. So
I was on that team.
I don't know who won the trade. I don't know who won the trade there, Cam.
Lou always wins the trade, dude. I helped the Blues grow and Berg, with Osh and all the guys and Perry and EJ, and we're all just young kids, and we just did. John Davis was there. We did everything. So the Blues had me do all this stuff, and then your family and your friends are like, "Can you do this?" So you're just getting pulled into so many directions, which is awesome. And you're young, and you just do it. Okay, you just say yes. Yeah. Now I don't say yes to anybody except for you, Tommy, and maybe Andy.
Hey, isn't it crazy? Yesterday, though, both you guys can talk about this. I mean, yesterday in the news in the hockey world. I mean, it's TJ Oshie who basically grew up here in St. Louis. We all got to to know him so well, and of course his dad passes away. He gets a hat trick. How could you not have your heartstrings pulled because of that? That's amazing. And JD's in the news. He gets let go by the New York Rangers, and then you see David Backes coming back here to St. Louis. So, all the top stories in the NHL, all had some type of St. Louis connection to it yesterday. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really has. It's been kind of a whirlwind, Cam, hasn't it?
Dude, what the big story was. I love Backes' story. Unbelievable. The Osh thing, very sentimental. We know his daddy. But the big boy story was, thank you, Boo. Jesus. She knocked the trash can. She knocked the trash can over. So she's looking for something. The big story was the Tom Wilson Brawl. I mean, not Tom Wilson wasn't even in the brawl, but how the Rangers they knew the pressure. It's just so many different little things coming. I mean, that organization, original six organization going through so much different kind of chaos and so many different levels. And these kids went out. No heavyweights got called up. And the kids that aren't usually fighters just said, you know what? I'm sticking up for this organization. I'm going to stick up for my teammates. We love Panarin. We love our brother. And that was just an emotional, cool thing that you haven't seen since, we did in 2012.
Yeah, well, you did have that square off with the Rangers. And it's funny because Cam, it was the Rangers and Devils, and they had a big line brawl to start the game. It was people are showing that video. But, Tom Wilson, who did our podcast, and he was unbelievable. And you get to know him. And it's funny, Tom, we have these guys on. We get to, some of the biggest names in the history of the game. And you have them on. You talk you have a real intimate conversation for an hour and a half. And you feel like you've known these guys forever.
Yeah.
And they kind of become your friends. And I talked to Tom Wilson today for 30 minutes, man. I mean, it's a situation where he's going through a lot, but he's in a great place. For him to see his team rally behind him and to know how much his teammates love him, you can talk about it all you want in terms of Panarin and the Rangers. He's feeling the same type of love and respect on his end. I will share this though. He and Panarin talked after the game, and Panarin obviously didn't play. I don't know what the plan was for him anyway, but they did talk, and he said, listen, Panarin knows I've got a ton of respect for him, and he was, in his words, he said he's an absolute beauty. They had a great conversation after the game, so
yeah, I get that part. No, that's actually pretty cool news because I was going to ask you about that. But Panarin, again, we don't need to get too detailed, but he just threw him down. Like the cross check the other night was worse than anything because you're using a weapon, but the helmet was off. The optics were bad. But I will say this, man. I've been through this kind of weird thing where everybody hates you. And when I hit Caberlet, Toronto media, I was a kid. I didn't know what was going on. And people, they wanted to kill you, literally kill you. And you're just kind of like, I hated that. I hated when people hated me. And sometimes that's just organic because of what I did and played, and I was hard. But I always wanted to be funny with the fans and nice. He embraces it. And trust me, when you're going around different towns and people know who you are, they hate you. They might like Oshie when you hang out with them, but they look at you like you're like the Antichrist. Like they hate you. And that would wear on you. I don't care who you are. And it just would wear on you, man. I wouldn't be able to take that, dude. That's tough.
I know, but you know how this is though, Cam.
Yeah.
And everyone has, a lot of people have said this, a lot of hockey people. Every team in the league would take Tom Wilson. Every GM in the league would take him. And he's from Toronto. He goes back to the hockey mecca every offseason. And people in Toronto absolutely love Tom Wilson. Listen, I'm having a hard time trying to decide is Tom Wilson bad for the game or is he great for the game? Because I mean,
a lot of viewers last night, baby.
Everybody's tuning in. They're watching that, and listen, he's had his suspensions. I think it's a little bit different, Cam, when he's dealing with a 20 gamer like he's dealt with in the past, or he had the suspension earlier this year.
He didn't elbow anybody. Yeah.
No, but I think that's when he can maybe find himself in a little bit of a dark place where that you get that's difficult. But he didn't get suspended this time, and you still feel the love when you're around your teammates and your home market absolutely loves you. You still feel a lot of that support too.
Well, I think that's just it. For me, guys, you can get carried away sometimes. Opinion, everyone loves to pile on, and it runs rampant sometimes. Nobody really knows unless you're in that room or with that team or you've been on the ice or you understand what it's like to be in that situation as a player anywhere. For me, I always look to the players in something like that. So if Panarin were to come out publicly and say, get his ass out of here, this is ridiculous, I might feel a little bit differently on that. I think that Wilson is who he is. I think he, he's out there flexing. He's got the smile. He's running rampant. He feeds off of it. He's actually a talented guy because he can score. He's a big, strong guy. He'll hit the hell out of you. To me, looking at the whole situation, I just want, old school hockey. I want them to police it themselves. And what I saw yesterday with the players going at it at the start, I'm like, all right, I kind of like this.
No one got hurt. No one got hurt.
Their guy. I don't like ragdolling people, and I like treating someone with respect. But Cam, you've been in the situation. Things get crazy. I'm not defending Wilson at all. Okay, I'm just looking at the situation from afar. I don't try to have a hot take on a situation like that. But things get crazy on a football field, baseball field. If people knew what actually is said and what happens in the file, they'd be stunned, wouldn't they?
Yeah, dude. When you're a 5-on-4, you get into psycho mode if somebody jumps on your back. And I love Panarin. He's a good kid. I feel bad for him because Putin probably tried to steal his family away. Who knows? But the guy's been through a lot, and he's a good player, and he's good for the game. But don't jump on my back when I'm 10 times stronger than you. I'm going to throw you down. Now, Tom Wilson going to drop his gloves. He didn't drop his gloves the whole time. He kind of smacked him around a little bit, whatever. I do it to Andy all the time. But he could have dropped his gloves and really hit him hard. He didn't do it. Now, did it look bad? Fine. But
it did.
The guys all stepped up. I mean, they all stepped up. But boy, oh boy, Tom Wilson owns the Rangers, and that is the bottom line.
Yeah, I know, man. And you know what? I just find it interesting that they talked, and there's no hard feelings. And for him to say his exact quote, "Panarin's a beauty, man. He knows I've got a ton of respect for him." And apparently Panarin twisted his knee a little bit. That's why he didn't play.
It looked like
in last night's game. But, listen, it is what it is. It's hockey. And it's funny because everybody goes crazy. They freak out about that. And then you see on Twitter today it's Bobby Basson's birthday, and he's just beating the hell out of people. And you
throwing
see
the ref.
Oh yeah, throwing Kerry Fraser out of the way. You see all these highlights, these line brawls that were taking place throughout the '90s. I mean, that's just the way the game used to be played, and that's why a lot of people from our age, why they fell in love with the game of hockey was because they wanted to go down into the arena. They wanted to see Twist fight. They wanted to see Chaser fight. That's why they went to the games. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of people fell in love with the game, and it's a big part of the history of the game. You can't deny that the physicality, the fighting, that's what separates hockey from the other sports that are out there. It makes it so great, you know?
Yeah, baby. It does.
But the game has changed, society's changed, everything's changed a little bit, and I get that. So, and we're talking about a major market there in New York. We're talking about the Washington Capitals. We're talking about Tom Wilson, which ignites and elevates everybody's temperature here. So that has a lot to do with it too. Because there's been some other stuff going on around the league too, man. It's been pretty much just as violent, if not worse. I mean, you saw
fights every night.
Well, you saw Shane Gostisbehere. I mean, after a Penguins player scores an empty net goal,
gutless,
and he cross-checks him from behind. Like, remember Dale Hunter and Pierre Turgeon back in the day? Similar type situation. I mean, you talk about trying to injure a player. That was as gutless and as dirty as it gets.
Tommy,
and it's not talked about as much because he doesn't have Wilson on the back of the jersey.
You know?
Yeah. Crosby threw somebody's head down too. Look, man, I hit guys weird. And I was a hitter. And if I didn't hit guys, I'm not.
You were a late hitter.
Andy, I hit you the other day. Don't make me do it again in an alumni game. Here's the deal. But I was a hitter. I couldn't just fight. Like, I had to be a hitter to stay. So I found my groove. But sometimes you hit late here and there. But I never used my stick to hurt anybody. Or I never cross-checked anybody from behind. Mm-hmm. I never hit guys from behind. My penalties were timing late hits, boom. Yeah. Boardings, elbow here and there, because the guy would duck on you, and you're like, so like that kind of stuff happened. But when you use your stick, it's gutless, man. Like, it's just like I have a weapon, and I'm going to take advantage of it. Yeah. And so, or you cross-check somebody in a vulnerable spot, like Ghost did the other night. When the guy's it's an empty net goal, it's over. The game's over, and you're like, I'm just going to. If somebody cross-checked you, if you're playing men's hockey, Andy, you know this too. Mm-hmm. If somebody and you go get the puck in the corner, and I came behind you and like. Cross-checked you right in your lower back, and you went blah, right into the boards. You'd be so mad at me. Well, it's the most gutless thing in the world.
Well, you saw what you did to me a few weeks ago.
I elbowed you.
It's amazing that I'm even available for this conversation with this concussion that I had. I had to be in the quiet room. I had to be in the dark room. But I will say this about Cam, because Cam, like, who fought all the time, like, you look at his career numbers and you're like, damn, like, he only has 700 penalty minutes. Like, you look at David Backes, 1,100 penalty minutes. But Cam didn't take a lot of penalties. Like, you didn't take a whole lot of minor penalties. You didn't get a lot of 10-minute misconducts and stuff like that. You got some.
I was good with the refs, man. I was nice to all the refs. I would kiss their butt. Anytime the camera stopped doing that, I'd be like, okay. Then I'd look at the guy and like, I'll bag you up or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But anytime, that's why I would always get a warning. So I go down that phone, I check, like, I'm going to get you. And maybe I was a little late. Maybe it was a little late. They'd be like, Timmy Peel and the guys would be like, hey, I'm giving you that one. Don't do it again. I'm like, okay, I got you. In scrums, camera, stop it. Let him go. Like, okay, I got you. I'm going to get you later, dude, or whatever it is. If you did that, everybody like complains to the ref all the time. I kiss their ass. And I got away with a lot of stuff because of that. All these young kids should write that down because it helps.
Cam, what's it like the night before or the morning of a game when you know that you're going to play and you have to take care of business from something that happened in a previous game?
Oh, it depends on what I did the night before, I guess. But, I mean, every situation, it wears on you. Okay, I'll give you an example. The night before, who knows what you're doing? You can get your mind away from whatever. But that day, when you're cruising around at a pregame skate and you see the boogeyman hanging out right there, or you see Colton Orr coming out with his, like, because they're practicing after you or whatever the case is, and he's got his thing on, and he kind of looks at you, and you kind of wink at him like, yeah, we'll do it tonight. One of those like, okay. Then you go, and you're not hungry because you're like, huh. And then you want to sleep, and sometimes you can, but you're just thinking. But I'd always have to call my dad, and he'd always, like, calm me down, like, just, or pump me up, whatever it was, because it's nerve-wracking, man. Because I didn't want to get knocked out in front of my family. I didn't want to get embarrassed, Like, injuries are going to always happen, but just don't embarrass me. Because I know that would just live on if you get caught with one. And that was always in the back of my head. So it was tough, man. It ages you, I'll tell you that. But the satisfaction's the best when you get into a good scrap at home, and I'm like hanging out with my buddies, like, oh, we're partying tonight. So everybody kind of watched the. Oh yeah, just.
Listen, I'm talking to a player. I'm talking to a guy the other day, player personnel guy, and he just brought up the podcast. At the end of the conversation, he's like, "I've listened to a couple episodes." He's like, and I haven't even told Cam this story. He's like, "You got to tell Cam. I was scouting a game in the American League, and I see Cam on the bench, not in the penalty box, but on the bench, take his jersey off, and then take his shoulder pads off on the bench, put his jersey back on, then hop the boards next shift and fight DJ King." I'm like, really? I've never heard him tell this story. You took your shoulder pads off before you went out knowing you were going to fight against DJ King? That's the story, Cam.
I don't remember.
Urban legend.
Well, I remember fighting Kinger in Worcester when my first.
It was against Worcester.
Yeah, it was a long one.
You call it Worcester. Apparently,
it's Worcester. It's a dump, is what it is. I'll say it. It's a dump. And Worcester, the rink sucked.
Worcester
I'll tell you that right now.
Worcester
There's
grows.
Nothing to do in Worcester. Nothing to do in Worcester.
I think was it called Marlboro, Arena, something like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah. But
Kinger and I went. Look, man. If you at the time when you needed to establish yourself as a tough guy, being 5'11", Lou drafts me, signs you, and that was like one of my first scraps in preseason in like 04 or 02 or whatever it was, and me and him went toe to toe for it was one of those fights, but I think I took my elbow pads off probably just so I could get my jersey out, Andy, and get going.
Keep your jersey on. Keep your jersey on.
There's 5 women in the stands. I had to get my jersey off. It's like 100 people there.
Hey,
Robbie Fatorik was the coach too.
Yeah, he was awesome. I loved him.
How much? What will it be like, Cam, to have David Backus in those alumni games?
Well, yeah. Well, he's not going to come back here. He's living up in Minnesota. But yeah, he's probably going to be like this, man. I'm not playing another hockey game ever. He's been he looks worn out. You know, he looks worn out. He's played such a hard game where he hits everything, blocks shots everywhere, fights when it has to, getting rocked, does all the nasty things, playing a lot of minutes. He's worn his body out so much that he's not doing anything. He's going to come hang out with fans and adopt 50 dogs here in St. Louis and do what he's got to do. But he's not skating anymore. I'll guarantee you that. Andy, you know what I'm talking about.
You never know, but you know what?
I'm done.
You know what? And he and I were texting last night after the game. You know how good he felt last night.
Yeah, he did.
I can't imagine how emotional it is for these guys. That's what they do. Most of us are forced to quit playing hockey.
Yep.
At 18, we all want to play at 19 and 20 and 21, right? But we're not allowed to because
I was thinking 35. Man,
yeah, we're not good enough. But these guys who play into their 30s, at a competitive level, and I think for David last night, I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. If you look at what he's been through, he's had some significant injuries the last couple of years. He had a nasty-ass infection.
Yeah, and it's intestines or something. Yeah.
It sidelined him for weeks. And then the Boston Bruins basically kicked him to the curb and said, stay home. And they let him basically find a team that he could, negotiate a trade with. And he found one in Anaheim, thinking that he was going to be able to get to 1,000 games. In fact, I think they kind of told him that, hey, you're going to be in the lineup every game. He's played 15 games this year, that's hard. I don't care how much money you're making. When you played as long as he has, and this guy was an elite player. He was a Selke Trophy finalist, 30-goal scorer twice, 2-time Olympian, captain. He played against the other team's best players, whether it was Taves, Rick Nash, whoever it was. Kessler, every single night. That was his responsibility, toe-to-toe with those guys. And he'd end the year being a plus 32, whatever he was.
Lead the league in hits too, Andy.
Oh, my God. And it just a devastating hitter. And he scored some goals being a net front guy in the power play, man. I just think, he's here in St. Louis. All of those emotions, losing to the Blues in the Stanley Cup final, I just think it all came out of him last night.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment. It really was. Not only the video tribute, but then Panger's interview afterwards.
Yeah, he did a good job on that.
That was really special. So there's a lot of stuff we can get to, but we're about a half hour in, and I want to make sure that we get to this. So people are watching this live right now, but they will watch it on replay. So I'm going to assume at that point that the Blues are in the playoffs. It's kind of inevitable. They could pick it up here at any moment by gaining more points than the Kings. So I'll start with Strick and just ask, can they? I mean, can they make a run? Is this a team, in your opinion, that something together, and what needs to happen for them to make a run and make some noise?
You know, here's why I think they can. First off, Jordan Binnington's playing his best hockey of the season right now. Let's be honest. They're going to go as far as Jordan Binnington can take them. It's no different than Vegas. I mean, Vegas is going to go as far as Robin Lehner, Marc-Andre Fleury, whoever's in goal. I mean, Colorado's got some great players, but they weren't as good when Grubauer is sidelined with COVID, right? And all of a sudden they got to play Devin Dubnyk and Johansson. All of a sudden the mighty Colorado Avalanche aren't so mighty, right? It changes. Goaltending's everything. So we look at this season a little bit differently. Like, what if it was an 82-game season and all of a sudden we're getting to game 50 and the Blues are catching their stride? Where would they be all of a sudden if we got to game 82? Would they catch Vegas? Would they catch Minnesota? Would they catch Colorado? Would they finish in second, third? Like, where would they be? The season's just going to end when they're playing their best hockey, and they've got a core group of players who have won, who are confident, who have swagger, who truly believe they're as good as anybody they go up against. They're going to be a little bit different defensively. But to me, if they were to win in the first round, to me it's not a shocking upset. It's an upset, but it's not a shocking upset when you consider the players they have on the roster. So, can they do it? If they have to play Vegas, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say like they're going to lose in 4 or 5. It's going to be an uphill battle. They're going to have to play their best hockey of the season to knock them out. It may take 7 games to do so, but I think they have the personnel who can do it. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm putting money on it, but I truly believe they can. And if they can get out of the first round, then we all know anything's possible. So it's going to be interesting, man. Vegas is a hell of a hockey team. If they're able to hang on and win the division, and the Blues end up facing them, that's going to be an unbelievable series. If you love the game of hockey, man, you're going to want to tune in for that one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Cam, what do you think?
Look, in the pandemic world, anything can happen, man. Who knows what could happen? Do they have are they top to bottom better in Vegas? Probably not. But again, Jordan Binnington, he's a winner. Like, he's a winner. If you're a winner, and he's a recent winner, he could stand on his head. But Marc-Andre Fleury's a winner too. It's like I don't know. I don't know. They were really bad for a while there. It was like a turnoff. Like, you couldn't even. There was a couple months where you couldn't. I was like, oh god, like they just were just bad. You could see in Berube's eyes afterwards. But then they started figuring it out, and we've seen this before. So look, again, anything could happen. It would be a rock'em sock'em playoff series against Reaver and in Vegas. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. This is a weird year. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it is. Do they need, Andy, someone to step up and become, play their best hockey now? Vladimir Tarasenko comes to mind if he's healthy, to come alive and do something like that.
I got to be honest with you. I don't know if Vladdy is capable of doing that right now. He's missed a lot of hockey. From May of 2019 till March of 2021, this guy played 4 games. I mean, it's not a lot of hockey. And he spent a lot. Will you stop coughing in my ear?
Sorry, man. Sorry. You're lucky I finished my last sentence.
You messed up.
Andy, it's hurty.
You messed up my thought.
Go.
I was going to make some sense there.
Christ.
No, so Tarasenko, he's played, 4 games in the last...
Yeah.
I mean, from that time period. So I didn't expect him to come back and just, tear it up. I've never seen Tarasenko play where he doesn't have the highest level of confidence of anybody on the ice, where he knew he could change a game, he could flip his wrist, and all of a sudden he's going bar down. And, all of a sudden scoring isn't easy for him. Now, he's dealing with another injury right now. It's not a long-term situation, but it's a nagging injury. And, it's going to be up to the coaching staff to get a good read on Tarasenko, where he's at. And if he's not going, are they willing to make the necessary change in an effort to give the Blues the best chance to win? Meaning, if he's not 100%, if he's not feeling it offensively, you can still put him on the power play, let him stand in front of the net, let Hoffman take one-timers the way he's been playing as of late. By the way, I'm a fan of Mike Hoffman.
He's been unreal.
I'm a fan of Mike Hoffman. We can talk about that. But, Tarasenko's good in front of the net, actually. He had power play points in back-to-back games just prior to him going down with the injury. And, was starting to maybe look a little bit comfortable there. But if he's not going, and you have to bump up a guy like Sammy Blais or whatever and put him there with Schwartz and Bozak, then you gotta be willing to do that, even though it may make a little, make some people a little bit uncomfortable. But maybe Tarasenko's going to catch fire. Maybe all of a sudden he's going to be a guy who's going to be a difference maker in that playoff series. But he's got to be healthy, and I kind of believe that he may need a full off season to train, which he hasn't had, to get his body where he needs to be from a strength standpoint, and get his shot back to where it needs to be, get his feet back underneath him where he has that separation ability, gets that explosiveness that we've seen from him in the past. Because mentally right now, Cam, you know how this is. When you're rehabbing an injury, as much as he has, you got to think that the majority of the issues that he might be dealing with are more mental than physical. This guy wants to get through the season where he doesn't have to rehab all off season.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to have surgery. He doesn't have to spend time rehabbing. He can enjoy his time with his family and just focus on next season. So I kind of cut him a little bit of a break there. But at the same time, he's a world-class player, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did catch fire.
Yeah, no doubt. Back to Hoffman for a minute. Cam, it's been a while since we've seen a player like that on the power play. He parks it in that right face-off circle and look out.
Yeah, well, it changes your dynamic of a team because when you walk into a game and their power play is unbelievable. Trust me, I had to get sat down a lot of times when you go into games like, Cam, go and stand in the box tonight, like watch your hits because they're deadly or whatever the case is. It just changes your mindset because you're not only probably going to get scored on, somebody's going to get their foot blown up because they're getting shots through no matter what. Now, when you're watching Hoff, he's open all the time, which is kind of weird. But when he's not, he'll make a seam pass to somebody who's wide open because everybody's like, oh, Hoffy, where you at? And then all of a sudden they kick it down to whoever, kick it in front, Vladdy or, Perron, whoever the guy is. There's always an open seam when you have that much pressure on you. So is Hoff great 5-on-5? Right now he's pretty good. He was kind of weird on a goal the other day, Andy. One of the goals, he was kind of floating on top, and it kind of went sideways against Anaheim. I think it was the second goal, if you know what I'm talking about. But so if he cleans that up a little bit, he's a threat. He's doing all this with 11 minutes, by the way.
Let me say this, though. Mike Hoffman can do things pretty much 99% of the players in the league can't do. I was talking to a player about this the other day. You know how hard it is to beat an NHL goaltender from that spot with a one-timer routinely? Most guys can't do that. They just can't. And I would put that up there with, you look at all the other sports. What's the most difficult thing to do in baseball? Is it hitting a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, whatever? I don't know. Football, whatever. What's the toughest thing? To score from that spot where everyone in the building knows the puck's coming to you. That's why there's only 3 or 4 guys in the whole league who can do that. Ovechkin, maybe, Stamkos, Patrick Laine, maybe, Brad Marchand, to an extent, Pasta. Yeah. No one can really do what he does. So he's found a comfortable spot playing with Thomas and Kyrou, 2 young kids who maybe put playing in their own end a little bit secondary. Obviously Chief is always reminding them they got to take care of their own end. But these guys just want to go. They're free. They love playing offensive hockey. They love playing in transition. Mike Hoffman, to me, is the most underrated passer they have on the team. This guy makes unbelievable passes on the rush, seam passes. He weaves in and out of traffic. He's got way more speed than people realize. He's great with a puck on his stick. He's got unbelievable vision. He's a hell of a hockey player. Is he great defensively? Probably not. But don't be shocked if all of a sudden this guy shows up and scores some big goals in the playoffs. He was really good last year for Florida in the bubble. Scored some huge goals for them.
Yeah, I hear that, especially on the power play. I think he, was one of the best in the league then, and looks it now. And it's he's not Brett Hull, but I'm just saying, it reminds me of Hull's role in the power play. And Hull always used to talk about finding open space to get to, like knowing where to be in the best position to make the next move and make something happen. And Hoffman does have that.
Hey, you know what, Aki?
Nobody's Holly.
No.
I know, and you're right. But Cam, you know what? He's Holly in the sense that, and he's Ovi in the sense that every time he winds up for the one-timer and the puck comes to him, like you anticipate something great is about to happen. Like you think the puck is going in. Like, is he as good as those players? I mean, listen, we all know that like those guys are like generational, like.
Right.
Yeah, they've been doing it 700 times.
Well,
he's on a streak right now.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for a while.
This guy's been doing it for a little while, but he's one of the best in the game at doing it now. Those guys are some of the best in the history of the game ever in terms of scoring goals. Like, they're incredible. So, listen, I'm not going to put them in that category. Like, you guys aren't either. But still, when the puck goes to him on the power play, I can't wait to see what happens. Like, you anticipate something good is going to happen. And more often than not, that's what's happened. I think, like, he scored 6 of the Blues' last 13 power play goals. And the other 7 goals have been scored by 7 different players. Okay, so, like, he's, like, getting it done in a major way right now. He's good, man. I like watching him play.
He sets up for other options, too. Like, again, like, he's a good passer. With Andy said that, he could fake that 1T and have a one-timer pass to Schwartzy on the back
Cam, he
just
overpassed.
Like I did with Andy the other day in the alumni game. He duffed it because he's weak.
Oh my God! hey,
wrist curls, Andy. Get them wrist curls.
I know. Hey, I'm trying. Hey, listen, he overpasses. Like Hawk, if you notice, if he scores early in the game, like he's too unselfish. Like, shoot the puck.
Yeah, shoot it, dude. No one cares. Shoot it. And let those guys go get the rebound, you know?
Come on, Hoff Daddy.
Those two force him to be good, too, by the way.
But is he not a perfect fit with the young kids, though? Just in terms of how he, like, approaches the game and how he wants to play? He's just like, let's go.
I'll go get the puck. I'll go get the puck, and I'll give it to you. Just get open. And don't even try to pass back to me. No. Just shoot it.
Because he's like 31, 32, whatever he is. 31, maybe. But he kind of, like, in his mind, he still thinks he's like 24, 25. He just wants to score goals and just play offense, you know? But I honestly, listen, I thought coming into the season, Aki, I said the biggest question, and Cam will tell you, I said the biggest question mark was, is he going to be able to like adapt and adjust to play under Craig Berube here with the Blues? Like, is he going to be able to do that? Because this is kind of who he's always been, and there's an adjustment going from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. But he's done that. Like, he struggled early on, but he's made some adjustments, man. He's playing harder, and he's a good player. He's been a good player for them the last couple of weeks.
I think those are all big factors. If the Blues are going to make a run, I think you can go back and listen to what we just said. One of those, probably all those things have to come true, but I think it's definitely possible. Before we go, I want to make sure that we know where to find your podcast. So the Cam and Strick Podcast is really good. We talked about all the big guests that you've had, some of them at least. Wayne Gretzky, of course, comes to mind as the greatest to ever play, who's been on the show. But tell us about the show, starting with Strick and kind of where you see this thing going. I mean, are you going to, now that you're starting this business, do you want to acquire the Garage Happy Hour? Like, do we want to talk about that?
Ooh. We could talk about it. Well, Cam sure as hell doesn't know where to find it. I mean, you could ask him how people can go find it. He doesn't know. I mean,
I bring the entertainment.
Listen, I was like worried you were going to ask Cam where to find the podcast because he thinks it's like in Eureka somewhere. It's like a gas station in Eureka, you know?
Yeah. So people know it's a podcast, not video, right?
It's a podcast. We do some video stuff, but we have not. It's so funny, Aki, like you talk to some of these guys, like they're like relieved when they hear that it's not a Zoom. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, okay, like I can actually walk around and like do this at the same time as opposed to like having to.
Yeah, Aki, I'm gonna get judged for what I'm doing tonight on the video.
And listen, like we ask like real questions. Like it's a different conversation than I think you're gonna hear the majority of these guys what they've ever done. And they thank us afterwards, man. They're like, you know what? That was unbelievable. I've never been asked those questions. I never had an opportunity to address this. I never knew I wanted to address it. It felt good to get it off my chest. And I think like staring at these guys through a computer and asking those probably wouldn't be the most comfortable thing to do. But I think we'd still be willing to do it. But like
I'll do it.
We've had some of the biggest names in the history of the game. We've got some great shows coming up. You can get it, obviously, wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you're going to find it. And, we've had a lot of success with it, but we have a lot of success because we have so much fun, man. It's not work. We truly enjoy it. We have a great time. We laugh a lot. We're loose. We are who we are. It's an opportunity to be ourselves. And I've always said this, Aki, like, this is an opportunity, and it's a show for those who have been inside NHL dressing rooms and for those who have always wanted to be inside NHL dressing rooms. You're not going to stumble across it. You have to purposely go to it if you want to listen to it. It might be too hardcore for some people, but then you don't have to listen. But if you want to come into an NHL dressing room and kind of feel what these conversations are like, I think we bring that to you in an authentic, genuine way.
Now, let me explain something real quick. Not like coming to a dressing room where you're like a reporter, ask them what, your favorite color is. We're asking about, like, their ex-wives stuff that you heard. Like, it's like if you're at a bar, if you're in a dressing room and you're talking to your buddies who you're playing with and you're having that conversation, not the fluffy stuff. So but it's interesting because we've all been through crazy stuff. So, like, you can relate to these guys. So if they had a problem with something, I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. what would you? So why'd you do this? Oh, how was this part of that? So, but it is a therapy. Like Andy and I both do podcasts with people, and we're just like, I'm an open book. Like, and it's healthy for me. Like, I like it. Like, I know what I did wrong, and I know what what I'm doing now. So it's just like we try to fulfill that with guys. We strategically, I said that right, Andy. Andy kind of does pick the guys that we want on. So we got a 90s guy that no one talks about for a long time. Get him. Now we want an owner of a team. Now let's get the GM and be hardcore about this. Let's get this guy that went through hardcore coke and painkiller rehab. Let's talk to that. So we just balance it out, but it's not easy. It's a job. It's a full-time job. I'll tell you that right now.
I think it's the future of media, to be honest. I think people just want – I'm not saying they want to hear that content all the time, but just in general, Andy, they want real, relatable conversation. They don't want fake talking heads.
And you know what I've realized, though, Tommy, also, is that the people we interviewed, they want to be real, too. Like, they don't want you to ask. They're kind of over talking the cliche hockey conversations. Like, it's okay to ask Kevin Stevens what happened when you got busted smoking crack with a prostitute in East St. Louis. Like, it's okay to ask.
Like, we think it, right? I mean, when you see his name, you remember that story.
Hey, he's going to answer that. It's okay for Sheldon Souray to admit that he was, taking 60 painkillers at a time or whatever. I mean, and it's okay for Mike Madonna to talk about his beautiful gold hair and whatever,
handsome,
and whatever. So we try to mix it up, and but what we bring, we try to bring an entertainment value to it. But I think honestly, we try to be real with these guys and just kind of have a conversation that I think anybody would have, or we'd have with them if we were just hanging out at their house or at a bar or whatever. And so, and we try to mix in some local guys too. We've had the Twister, the Chasers. Doug Armstrong gave us an amazing interview, 2 hours with Doug Armstrong. We've had Hully on, so David Perron was unbelievable during the pandemic. He came on. He's got an incredible story. So there's a mix of local players with St. Louis connection, and then those who have been, some of the best players in the history of the game.
That's
Hall
awesome,
of Famers.
Man. I love it. I support it 100%.
And Cam Janssen, who's
Hi.
I used to.
Hi.
And Cam's great too. Listen, Cam's different than most hockey players in the event, from the standpoint, I don't know of any other NHL players that came from Eureka, you know what I'm saying? That just kind of
Not Pat LaFontaine. I don't know why his thing's on the back. Get his ass out of there.
That has his background, but and brings a level of entertainment and is all good with asking questions and having fun. And these guys know who Cam is. They know what he did in the game. There's always that level of trust and respect too when you have a guy on there who played in the league. So he helps from that standpoint too, big time.
There's a comfort level there. They know that he knows what they're talking about. And, as soon as I saw you guys launch it, I knew it was going to be a success. And you guys both work hard. You're great guys, and I appreciate you doing the Garage Happy Hour. Thanks.
Well, you're the only one, I think.
Hey, Aki, congrats what you're doing with the Garage Happy Hour, too.
Thank you.
You're a wily veteran. You've been in the game a long time, man.
Are you really? Hold on. Are you in your garage? Cam's in his garage. Are you in your garage?
I'm in my. I'm
that's
chilling,
fishing
baby.
gear over there. Over on this side is a snow shovel. If I flip this thing around totally, you'll see bikes and trash cans and stuff. But then I'm for whatever reason, this iPad's been sensitive today. I don't want it to go out.
I don't want to move my camera around either.
It's a garage.
Who knows?
It's a garage. Right. But no, I do it out of the garage. It's been fun. I eventually I'm going to change it up though. I think I'm going to start going to people's garages.
Come on over, baby. Come on over, Franklin County.
Cam, clean your garage.
The wealthy part of Franklin County.
Clean your damn garage.
I have people cleaning my garage, Andy. You know that. You can't get away with it. They clean my trash up. It's crazy.
Hey, I don't know, man. I mean, that may be that's tough. That's dangerous to go to other people's garage. But you know what? If it looks like mine, they don't want you in. Although we just moved, I have an excuse though.
He's got a brand new
house. We're not quite there yet with the garage.
Yeah, we'd have to do some cleaning, of course, to have a party in here. But it is what it is. It's a garage, man. So again, I appreciate it. That's kind of the fun of the show. Like this guy's in his garage drinking beer, interviewing celebrities. Like, what's going on?
That's what you do, baby.
And it just shows up on their Facebook page. So, no, I appreciate it. And we're sponsored by Bommarito Automotive Group. That gives it credibility too. We've had some amazing sponsors. Bommarito's been awesome. We're going to have a quick commercial from them here to close it out. But you guys have been great. I appreciate it. Andy, thanks for hanging out after your Pfizer shot.
Johnny Bommarito, he hooked up my wife Laurie with her new car too. So Johnny's my boy. He knows that. So big shout out to Johnny Bommarito.
That'll get back to him.
He sponsors a lot of stuff. I like him.
Yeah, that'll get back to him.
There you go.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great night. And thanks to our producer, Sam Masterson. We'll see you. We're here every Thursday, 5:30, live on Facebook and on Twitter. The Garage Happy Hour going over a year strong here. Who knows where this show's going to go from here. But it's been fun. Thanks, guys. Andy Strickland, Cam Janssen.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
At Bommarito, shop thousands of new vehicles. Get more for your trade. The Bommarito nationwide warranty, 10 years, 200,000 miles, and the best service after the sale. Bommarito, Missouri's #1 automotive group, open 24/7 at Bommarito.com.